What is up, guys? It is episode 76 of Working Class on DeerCast, and we're kind of sticking with the theme for the last 2 weeks. We talked with Forrest a little bit about controlled burning, talked with Lee and Austin a little bit last week about some farm management stuff lightly. But I got my newly good friend, Chris Seders. C. Seders.
Nailed it.
I love your last name. But so I got introduced to you through Perry Batten. Shout out to Perry, Mark's farm manager. And I'm like, hey, man, I called him first because I had a farm that I had permission to hunt that needed a controlled burn done. So I called Perry up. I'm like, hey, do you do that stuff? Because I thought, like, oh, I'll have Perry come out. He's like, no, but I got a guy.
Right.
So that's how I got in contact with you. And I just called you up. Like, yeah, man, we could probably figure it out. And that's really the start of the conversation. So thanks for coming and doing this, and thanks for coming to do the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What do you do as your day job? Let's start there, and then we'll get into how you got into doing what we did today.
So a little back history for me. I'm currently a full-time sheriff's deputy for the county back home. I started doing the prescribed fire stuff for land management about 10 years ago. Been a volunteer fireman also for going on. This will be year 11.
Damn, thanks for your service for all this.
Thank you. So that's really kind of how I got into it. So there's a lady through the DNR back home that she burns a lot of state sites for prairies, grassy prairies and stuff. So they do prescribed fire burns just about every year on most of the sites, if not every other year, to help control a lot of the different aspects of doing prescribed fire. So,
yeah. Okay, so I kept calling it today. We were doing some videos. I kept calling it
control burning.
Control burning.
Yeah.
And Spencer's like, hey, man, it's prescribed fire because it's never 100% in control.
Right. So I always kind of, when people ask the difference between control burning and prescribed fire, I always tell them, if you've ever seen the movie Backdraft.
I have not.
So it's an older firefighter type movie. And in there they tell you that, the fire is a living, breathing creature.
Okay. And it feels that way.
And you can't control it. I mean, you can try.
Yeah.
You can fight it, but it's not something that you
A controlled
control.
burn's a campfire.
Right.
Right?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like you're burning leaves in your ditch. That's a controlled burn.
You could even go as far as say that's probably a prescribed fire too, because if you got grasses or something, it can get away from you.
Fire scares me.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why, like, I know I can't be the only guy out there who has permission pieces that, like, helps the farmer with his land and, like, just handles stuff for hunting permission or has their own piece or anything like that to help basically management of the ground. We'll get into some of the benefits of it. But I had a fire scare couple years ago just in my house and lit the neighbor's field on fire. And just like, I'm like, I don't like this, man. Like, I got too cocky. The last thing I want to do is go burn something that hasn't been burned in a decade and watch 20-foot flame. It was just a disaster waiting to happen. So I want a guy that knows what he's doing. And that's where you came in. And I knew there was a method to the madness, but I didn't know how the method
works.
How it works, So if you want to, like, kind of break down the process of it or really, like, why people do it, you know what I mean? Let people know.
So there's a lot of benefits to it. For like a good CRP piece, for instance, depending on the contract, like you might not be allowed to let a lot of stuff grow in it. You might not be able to till it, things like that. So like the piece that we did today, for instance, had like a lot of Russian olive and thick kind of stuff that's starting to come up in it. So fire can help control that, keep it from growing more, spreading. And we did kind of a growing season burn today. So, and I say that because everything's starting to grow. Everything's starting to turn green. And benefit to doing a prescribed fire during a growing season for some of your invasive plants and trees and things like that is that it scars those better and it can kill them off. So you'll probably notice that some of that Russian olive will die off or won't grow this year, but there's probably still a lot that you'll have to get in and trim at some point.
Yeah.
But
see, like you look at this landscape as a hunter, we spend more time just staring at the terrain that we're hunting or spending time on. Like, you're looking for deer, but you're taking in what's there, and it's just dense CRP.
It was very thick
and full of thorns, full of olive, whatever, Russian olive or whatever. I call it all honeysuckle, and that's not true, I don't think. But
yeah, that's typically what I do too. I always say bush honeysuckle,
blanket term, And I'm always like, man, I want to burn this so bad because I just want to see the change in the landscape because you can see like what's really there.
Sure.
It's almost like you remove the curtain on this piece of ground that like, because I don't know how if you feel this. When I hunt a piece, I kind of become attached to the piece I'm hunting.
Right.
Like I have like a different layer of respect for the ground I'm on. And for me,
take care of it better.
I want to take care of it better, and I want to see it. I want to see what's really like. Peel back the curtain. What's this really like without all this grass on there? So it's fascinating to see the process, but it's cool knowing you're benefiting it. I like to think it's taking care of ticks.
Actually, that is one of the benefits. So,
I asked somebody about that, and they're like, yeah.
I mean, maybe not on a high scale, but you got to imagine we burned, what do we guess today, about 50 to 60 acres?
Yeah, I'd say, 60-ish. I mean, we had to burn up some ticks.
I'm sure we burned up a few, yeah.
Good. Screw them. But yeah.
I hate them as well.
But, like when we first started going, so I'm looking at this. I just want to give her like my mindset. I'm looking at the grass. I'm like, this thing's going to burn hot. And there's a lot here.
It definitely burned hot.
And it's going to go. And it was windy today.
Which is surprising for a lot of people who don't know, because you had, 4 inches of rain like less than a week ago?
Yeah, like 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Like we came out and mowed with a skid steer 3 days ago, and it was too wet to get in the bottom with the skid steer.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I always kind of, for CRP, for me, like 2 to 3 good days of sun and wind, good sunny days, it'll dry out really quick.
Yeah.
Like we had that one spot fire that kind of started getting away from us there. And once it started getting down into that wood line, that was it. It was done. Mm-hmm. And we kind of figured that would happen because there was so much moisture down in there yet. It just snuffed it out. Well,
so let's just start like the beginning of our day. So I had a box blind and a piece on this farm, and I mowed around it just to kind of prevent the 20-foot flames from scorching and warping the walls and windows on this thing, which it would have, man.
Yeah, with that border grass that you had planted around there, that, was probably 20 flames coming off of that. Could have been a lot higher than that.
Not
out of
fun.
that blind, right?
So we mowed a big crop circle around the blind, but we started right there where the blind was. So if you want to just break down what we did, when we started, and why.
So you have everything mowed, pretty much the edges around the whole unit of this. So we had it broke down into 2 units, I should say. Mm-hmm. You had everything mowed around the borders of both units, which was a huge help. And then mowing down around that blind was also a super big help.
Yeah.
So what I did before you got there was I went in with the leaf blower and the rake, and I pulled back all that dry, dead fuel away from the blind, and then had it kind of prepped down to the dirt. So when you did get there and we got started, we kind of had that backing fire on that northeast corner, which would be to the right of the blind if you're looking at it from the entrance, we'll say.
Yeah.
And then once we got close enough to it, we lit around it and let it just kind of burn out away from it. So slower fire, and we had a good breeze, so that helped, in my opinion,
and
blow
you're
the heat
using
away.
drip torches,
Right?
Which I knew I've seen drip torches on like YouTube, but like, what is a drip torch, and what like fuels the drip torch?
It's hard to explain how they look, really. It's like just a metal gas can.
It's like a funky gas can with
Yeah.
a weird nozzle on it.
It's got a funky nozzle on it, and it's got a loop in it, a couple valves for flow. You can adjust your flow and things like that. It's got a wick on the end of it. We call it a wick. The drip torches we use today were called Panama torches, and they got like a flat, almost kind of looks like a shovel on the end of it.
Yeah.
There's others that just have a round piece that you shove like a piece of steel wool and stuff in, and it helps hold that fuel and things like that, basically. But
yeah,
the Panama torches is just what I have, and they just work really well, as do the other brands, of course. But
yeah.
So we started today. I was a little worried with it being a little damp, so I did a pretty heavy diesel fuel to gasoline mix. I did 4 gallons of gasoline. 4 gallons of diesel to 1 gallon of gasoline, because I wanted it to burn slower and longer so we can get them fuels lit, which we didn't really have any issues with.
No.
But I thought maybe that's the way it was going to go.
So it's that mixture in there. And it was cool watching, because you line off where you want the fire to go, and you could even throw the fire into a spot.
Yeah, I could toss it a few feet, not real far.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Pretty cool. I think that was important, just like talk about what a drip torch is.
Sure. I wish I had a picture I could show you.
We can throw it in. I have video of you using it, so I'll throw it in here.
Perfect.
So I'll mark it here. Try and take rough notes to get it on there. And sorry if I don't end up doing it, my bad, but I have great intentions. We took a lot of video today. So yeah, it was cool watching the drip torch work. I've never seen that before. Never been around any of this.
Right.
So it's all new to me.
I know you were pretty nervous going into it.
I was nervous, man.
From watching the podcast with Forrest, you talked about being a little nervous, how you'd never done it before. So
yeah. Well,
I figured
it's intimidating. Fire's scary.
It is. It really is. You know,
know?
because like I said, if you get in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you're not watching your back and watching where you need to be, it can
Yeah.
creep up on you. Because look at how fast that burned across. 30 seconds.
It was fast, and you did a good job at like we had like a pre-meeting, and talked about things like, hey, if this happens, this is what you need to do. So it wasn't like we didn't, you didn't take us all into it, because we had some awesome volunteers out there today that helped us out. But so had the drip torch, burned around the blind, make sure that thing was protected from its own burn line, and then kind of like talk about the method to the madness there after we, the blind was a priority at that time. Sure. But then going on from that.
Yeah, nobody wants to lose their deer blind.
No.
Especially not to.
No, especially after getting that thing out, having to borrow a tractor to set it up and all that. Like, yeah. And I don't want to call Grizzly and be like, hey, we melted it.
Right. It looked like a pretty awesome setup. I mean, you had it staked down very well. And
yeah.
You guys had some pretty rough weather, I know, as well, when you had that rain come in.
Dude.
So to see it still standing is pretty incredible.
I was surprised, if you want to know the truth. After that tornado.
Yep. That's pretty awesome.
I drove in. I'm like, oh, this blind's going to be just smashed on the ground. It was still there. So I need, Mark Drury keeps telling me I need to cram T-posts in at a 45 on each corner. And I'm going to do that. Like, I have to go and do it. And then run straps through your base.
You can never have too much holding down, I don't think.
No, it's scary, man. It's just farm stakes holding them down. It's like, I don't know. I tighten the ratchet strap on there that slacks up every now and again. And I'm like, this thing's going to just blow over one of these days. But anyway, so let's continue on the method to the madness now after we save the blind.
Right. So for me with this burn, we had it broke down into 2 units. First one being bigger than the second, and a little bit of rolling terrain, some hills, a couple little ditches and things that kind of ran through both. But with having a pretty grassy fire break, it was mowed, of course, but we still had 6 inches tall, 4 inches tall fuels there that could burn, and some of that stuff was dead and some of it was green. So
yeah.
What I like doing with having that backpack leaf blower, man, that's one of my favorite tools. Other than, of course, using the drip torch to light the fire, the backpack blowers are lifesavers. So we got a good backing fire. So a backing fire is a real slow burning, burns into the wind instead of with the wind. Mm-hmm. So it's more controlled.
It's fighting the wind as it's trying to burn. So it's
right.
Yeah.
So it's
burning. A comforting fire more than a oh shit fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You look at the flame height that we had on the backing fire. Yeah, maybe 2-3 feet in the smaller fuels and 4 or 5 feet in some of the taller fuels.
Yep.
And then you look at that head fire, which is the fire that is pushed with the wind or rolls uphill.
Yeah.
Some of them flames, we're guessing we're over 40 feet today.
At the end there, I'd say at least 40 feet.
Yeah.
I was standing on top of my Ranger, and I'm like, oh no, that is insane. Yeah.
It was really impressive. It burned very well.
And fast. So yeah, it was cool to see the difference. Once I started seeing that backing fire, I'm like, okay. I started getting a little more comfortable with the process watching that happen,
What did you think when you saw that first head fire ripping our way when you were standing on top of the Ranger with them real tall flames?
Once we kind of got going to the first head fire, yeah, I was like, because it makes a sound I didn't expect. Like it's like
loud.
It's loud and it's like it's alive, man. Like it's intimidating. You got to be. Oh, I gotta think. I need to think 2 steps ahead because that thing's gonna be over here in 20 seconds.
Yeah, and you got to be able to quick adjust on your plan too.
Yeah.
So, like I said, once we got to that second unit and we started having problems with the fire, trying to spot over. With one of the other workers that we had,
we're trying to keep it out of a cut cornfield. Is what we're doing.
We gotta adjust the plan, man, or we're gonna catch this cornfield on fire, and we don't want to do that. So we made like a secondary fire break where he blew the corn, litter away. Down to the dirt. So we didn't have any more issues, thankfully.
Yeah.
But if we would have, it would have went to that dirt spot and that'd have been it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would have been easier to manage.
The leaf blowers, man, I'm like, this is a game changer. Like, it makes perfect sense when you talk about it, but I'm like, I never would have thought about that. So you kind of get, I don't want to say ever got comfortable, but I just became familiar with the process. I'm like, okay,
sure.
This isn't just chaos, and once you get it all lined up and Spencer was out, he came out and helped too. And he's a burn boss as well. And he had it all, he knew what he was doing. So it was cool. Like you guys basically tackled it from both sides and that it was pretty comforting at that point,
Sure. Yeah. It was definitely nice having some extra help. It's not something you can
everyone had
lightly.
a job.
Yeah. It's not something you can take lightly. And in all honesty, if we could have had 10 more people there today, I would have said, come on out,
By all means. Yeah.
Right.
Cause we had, You were, it was good the way we had it delegated. You ran the show. Spencer ran the other side of the show on the back burn, right?
Yep.
So, and then I was like the ranger water guy running between two because we had water in a water tank. And then we had a mat guy, we had a rake guy. Yeah, we could have used two of everybody, really.
So those flappers or those, swatters, they both have a same thing,
So it's like it's a broomstick with a piece of
like old rubber conveyor belt.
Yeah, old rubber conveyor belt, maybe a foot wide, foot long.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. You just go along and snuff it out, and it kind of suffocates that fire.
Works awesome.
And when you were doing what we were doing with getting that fire break burnt, because it was all grass. So if we would have just let a head fire rip across there, it would have been in that cornfield in no time.
Oh, no, instantly.
So burning it like we did and starting that backfire, and it's real small, real slow flame, not real hot, still some smoke that you got to kind of tuck your nose in your shirt or wear something to kind of cover your face because it does get old breathing all that in after a while. But we were able to get a nice burnt off area before it got into that real hot and real heavy fuel load. Mm-hmm. So that way when it was burning tall, we didn't have to worry about it creeping over and going somewhere we didn't want to.
Right. And that was the cool thing about it. It's like once you have the black area where it already burned, it's like, all right, we're good. It's like that. It's almost
a comforting
It's a
feeling.
safety blanket, really, because that west side that we were on, you don't want to burn the neighbor's field.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then more, and then whatever's on the other, it can get going crazy, but it was just a cool process.
And nobody wants to call their neighbor and say, hey man, sorry.
Hey dude, my bad. I did that a couple years ago, burned my neighbor's field. I called him. He's like, you probably helped it.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but still, sorry. My
Right.
bad. He didn't
You still feel bad about it.
He didn't care. Yeah. He's just like, good, burned off some of the weeds. But it was just neat kind of seeing all this, how fast the fire moves. And now I'm looking forward to seeing like what it benefits for the turkeys. It's going to all come up fresh. Like, the deer are probably going to like it more this fall. I think it's just going to be, it's just habitat improvement in general.
Sure.
I'm sure the quail, the pheasants, the rabbits, I mean, you name it, everything's going to benefit from the burn.
Yeah, I agree. So I know deer like real thick cover.
Yeah.
I'm a hunter as well.
So I don't really care too much about like the olive in there because I know like the deer like
Sure.
it for more cover, but it's not so good for the program, I don't think.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. But everybody says thick cover, but you can't tell me that a deer doesn't like walking through all them thorns either. It's got to hurt.
No, I can't imagine that it's a good time.
Right. So that helps, control all
Well, you
that.
notice like where most of the trails are, they're not through the thorns.
No, not at all.
You know?
Somebody told me once, and I don't, might hold true. It seems like it. If they can, they'll take the path of least resistance.
For sure.
Nice clean path through the woods versus a
For
bunch
sure.
of, thorns and
I think that's true most times. Now, I've watched big bucks do stuff, and I'm just like, all right, yeah, big bucks just do what big bucks want to do.
Sure.
I think the general deer population, yes. But in November, the does are going to take those paths, and the bucks are going to be behind them. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if I don't got to walk through thorns, I'm not walking through thorns. And I got to think they feel the same way.
yeah.
I know they got hair on them, but the thorns in this piece are bad. It
Some of
needed
them-
burned bad.
And some of them, plants were pretty thick, the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
They were just covered in thorns, and it's miserable.
So the landowner's dog, he told me there's a spot on that farm he let his dog go. It was just running around, and it got stuck in some of those thorn patches, and he had to go in and like cut the dog out of this like briar patch.
I could see that with how bad some of it was.
Yeah, I go through there trying to shed hunt. It was just miserable. I ruined every pair of pants I've ever gone through. They all look like I got attacked by a cat.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They're just thorn ripped, all of them. So, especially if you're wearing like these new Wrangler stretchy pants, it's like everything's all just
Ripped really
screwed.
easy.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It was just a cool process. I think if someone's got a piece that's CRP and it hasn't been burned for a while, and you're like, that might help the landowner, like, hey, if you can hunt the piece, get a hold of you, which we're going to put your information in the description, all that stuff. Get a hold of somebody in your area that can burn and do some of this for the landowners to show that like you really care. You want to help the program that their land is in so they can keep making income on their ground. In exchange, you get to hunt. Like there's a lot of things you can do to flex hunting permission.
Yeah, say it's a good tactic for hunting permission. I'll take care of this for you if you...
You don't got to worry about this. I'll help you with it.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people don't think about it that way. Like, go cut down logs on the farmer's field edge that he's going to have to screw with when he's going planting. He's trying to get his planter ready.
Sure.
You don't want to worry about down logs in the field. You can do that. Hey, I got the farm lease. I got the hunting permission. You help me out. Yeah, shoot the deer out there. I think a lot of people overlook that stuff like that, you know?
I agree. Especially nowadays, you got a different crowd coming into it, you know, younger generation.
Yep. It's too much work.
It's too much work. Yeah.
But, you know, it's like you can take pride in it, though. Like, that gives, like, I take pride in the places I hunt because I care about them. You know, it's like, makes me feel good.
It's nice seeing something that you do have a better benefit in for the outcome.
Yeah.
So, like I said, after it rains and stuff next week for you here, you'll get out there and you'll see everything growing back, and it'll grow green and thick, and
it's going to be fun to see.
It's really cool to watch something that you work on over time, especially. And just grow and better itself. It's really kind of neat.
My spring goal for that piece is to film a turkey strutting in it.
That'd be cool.
Just bright green. I imagine they'll be in there. We'll see, but like, I think that'll be kind of like a rewarding, like, look at that, you know?
Get some good pictures. Or
yeah.
Something, yeah.
Be kind of cool. I'll have to go out there. Maybe I'll have a turkey tag in my pocket at that time, but if not, that's all right too.
Right.
I might take the kids out and try to do some turkey scouting from a distance or something, but it was fun. It was a ton of fun. How many I almost said controlled burn, prescribed fires do you think you've done?
Oh, I'm not even really sure. Because like I said, I've been doing it for about 10 years, helping out on different burns. So not too terribly many with, working full time and stuff, but a pretty good amount. That's
awesome, man. And if someone wants to get in, what's the best way? Is like join volunteer fire department, get into it that way, or like if they want to learn the process of it?
So here in Illinois, I think one of the best ways to do it is to reach out to the DNR.
Mm-hmm.
They got people everywhere that burn different state properties all over. And that's their full-time job. They do land management for different state-supported properties.
Oh, yeah.
And you can apprentice through the state to get your burn boss certification.
No kidding.
You have to take a couple online courses, but it's super easy, PowerPoint type stuff, and you have to test it, take tests at the end. But
yeah,
it's pretty relatively simple. It takes some time. It might take a couple years depending on your work schedule and depending on things like that. And of course the weather. The weather is a big factor.
Yeah, because are people doing prescribed fires like in the middle of the summer, or is it too?
There's some that happens. Not so much around here because the humidity is so bad.
Yeah.
But one of the benefits for prescribed fire, like out west, for instance, it reduces the fuel load every year. So that way the wildfire season's not as bad.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And they don't have the humidity quite as bad as we do.
Yeah. See, when we did this burn today, I was talking with Cameron, who came out and helped. And Cameron's awesome. But we were talking like, man, can you imagine like some of the wildfires out west, what these guys deal with? Like how, like you can see how quick those guys get in a rough situation. Where they're trapped by a fire. Like you see those videos online where they're in a truck kind of panicking on where to drive. It's like, God, I can't even imagine. Like that's just so scary.
And out there, their fuel heights are worse. They got pine trees and trees that are 60, 80, 150 feet tall.
Dude, that is not for me. I have so much respect for what they do. Even more so now. I always did, but way more now. Like that would be a tense situation that I don't know if I could handle.
Not to mention having the physical exertion of climbing the mountains for days on end.
Yeah, and running from fire if you get in a bad situation. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
But those guys are out there getting it, and hats off to you guys. So we respect what you do. But yeah, I mean, you go to certain spots, like I've elk hunted in Colorado where there's just all down trees from, I don't know, their beetle kills or what. And I'm sure like fire can help those areas to make to clean up the timber.
Sure.
And I know the elk a good burn after a year or two, for food and whatever else. But there's so much benefit to fire. And it seems like while it's burning, you're like, man, you just burned off all this habitat. But it's like the life that regrows out of it's like, it's just weird that's the way it works.
I've had some people ask me about that too. Like, why do you do that? It's such an unnatural thing. Well, actually, it is very natural.
Yeah.
Think of hundreds of years ago before anything was ever really settled, all the plains and stuff, they'd burn off.
Yeah, lightning alone.
So,
that's one thing when you go out west and hunt, you realize how lightning's an issue. Like lightning is a danger.
Sure.
When you're hunting high country. But yeah, like lightning, that's what starts most wildfires. Well, for the most part, I think, but I know a lot of it's people.
Yeah,
But,
nowadays a lot of it's people related, but there's still storms and things that come across out in the plains that
Yeah.
lightning strike, and next thing you know, you got thousands of acres that are burning. So
it's scary, man. That's one thing, like living out west, you always hear about people's houses get taken out by wildfires and stuff, and that scares me,
yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. It was cool, man. It was cool to like be a part of it, see how fast it burns, see the whole process, kind of be familiar with it. It's just another like notch of experience in my bag. You know what I mean? It's like, and to me, it's all deer related. Like I'm thinking about it, property and management and the benefits of it, but like in my head, it all comes back to my deer season for me.
Sure. Yeah, but like we saw them rabbits earlier. Unfortunately, we probably spooked them out of their den, but
Yeah.
it'll help the rabbits and it'll help the birds and turkeys, and it really helps everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's more benefits. Well, that's the talk. Guys put in food plots. It doesn't just benefit deer; it benefits songbirds. It benefits everything.
Sure.
And that's the thing I think people overlook with hunters in general. Is like, yeah, we're killing stuff, but we care about everything. And so it's like, oh yeah, you want to plant a food plot just so you can kill deer. It's like, yeah, but everything that benefits from the food plot.
Right.
It's like everything really does for the most part.
Birds get in and eat the bugs, and
Yeah. Turkeys are in there. I mean, damn, about everything eats clover.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's nature's salad, really. It's Midwestern salad for the wildlife, So I don't know. I think that stuff's overlooked. I think what it benefits for everything else besides deer. But
Right.
I don't know. It's just land management becomes more and more interesting to me the older I get. And I don't know if it's like I talked on this last week with Austin and Lee. It's like, I don't know if that's just that next layer of interest when it comes to hunting. It's like taking it further where it's hunting, but it's outside of hunting.
Sure. You're still doing hunting related tasks and things, and
Right.
with the end goal in mind of, shooting that 200-inch deer at the end of the year.
Right. Let's hope.
Right.
One day, 200 inches. But yeah, it's just fun in general. But like I encourage people, if that's something that interests you, like get a hold of you, message you. Yeah. You're gonna get some social pages made and all that stuff because you're gonna kick off. You're starting your own business to do this.
Sure.
We've been, you told me a little bit about it. So like, what's your game plan? Like, people be able to hire you out to come do this?
Yeah. I'm going to set it up to where you can call me, message me on socials or anything like that. And then, I'd probably be willing to travel pretty decent distances, of course. But my main focus is going to be land management through the process of prescribed fire, but
yeah.
That being said, I'm also going to try doing things like working on TSI, timber stand improvements, and just anything generally to improve the habitat for whitetail or anything else for that matter.
Is the goal to leave your day job one day to do this full time, or maybe just 50-50 or?
See, I don't know. I love both, really.
Yeah.
So, I like helping people.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Right. And I'm still helping people by doing this.
Yeah.
Working for people that you want to hire me out or whatever.
Sure.
But
working for yourself, that'd be pretty
right.
awesome.
But having like my own business and just making that little extra safety for my family and stuff is always a good idea.
You got to pad the pockets, man.
Right.
No, I think it's cool. I think it's a great idea because, like, I think a lot of people. I'm sure there's guys locally that I don't know about, but I didn't know where to go. I called Perry.
Yep.
It's like you call a buddy of a buddy, and that's how you figure it out, I guess. But I hit up a couple guys locally, like, I've done it, but I don't do it anymore, or that type of thing. And but yeah, it's like. You're an available resource for people in the Midwest now through this podcast that maybe want to do a burn maybe this year yet, or I don't know if they do them in the fall, but for next year especially,
Yeah, you can do, so like earlier I mentioned the growing season kind of burns. So right now we're getting into the growing season burns. But they do dormant season burns as well. And that's your fall and winter type burns. But a lot of people, I don't imagine, are going to want to burn their properties off anytime from
just barren ground,
October until after January. So
I don't see that happening.
At least not from a hunting
especially
standpoint.
With standing crop.
Right.
Yeah, can you imagine catching a standing cornfield on fire?
I've seen it, and
not good.
Yeah, they roll pretty good.
It'd be kind of cool to watch, actually.
It's kind of cool to watch, but it's also very terrifying because you got, it's like we said earlier, 60, 70 foot flames. You're just
Yeah, no. I'm watching
They're
that
still
head
stopping.
flame come across today. I was standing on top of my Ranger filming it. I'm like, oh, that's coming in hot.
Right.
Like, you know, I feel hot right now just from being around the heat. You know what I mean?
It was a good sunny day. So had we not had,
We were in the heat the whole time.
and we were in the heat the whole time.
Yeah, like fire or not, it was hot today.
Right.
So like I just feel warm. We worked hard, you know, we ran around and just we burned a lot of grounds. We covered a lot of I don't know, miles or whatever, but we moved a lot today.
You know, that's what we were talking about earlier too. You think, oh man, we worked all day. We really didn't work very many hours. You know,
No.
we first put fire on the ground a little after 12,
Yep.
and we were done burning by 5.
Yeah, it
We were
seemed
done
like it
lighting
took way
everything by
longer. Yeah. It's actually impressive work, really, when you break it down. Like
Right.
it went fast. So it was fun, man. I do appreciate coming out. It was a cool thing to experience. I think we got a lot of good footage, got a lot of good photos. I'll throw them in on top of this podcast and
Be
stuff.
awesome.
But where can people find you if they're wanting to do something like this? I know you're gonna have some social pages, and we'll help share those and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to get the Facebook and the Instagram up and running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'll also give you my phone number and business name and things you can attach in there, and we'll just,
Cool. Yeah, if you
Roll
want
with it.
people calling you, they'll call you, I'm sure.
that's all right.
Call just see how you're doing.
That'd be all right too, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to say where you work at, but or not, but
Yeah, not really.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Smart, probably.
Yeah. I don't know how that would go. I don't think it would
Let's
be an
not
issue.
do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I
it'd be
don't
fine.
think it'd be any issues, but
Yeah. All right. Hey, but the thing is, so we just had a DNR officer a few weeks ago in studio, and we are a bunch of heathens here, but we're not too big of heathens that we still have law enforcement in studio,
sure.
right? We're still we ride the line. We're still cool enough,
Right.
but we're not too big of heathens where you guys don't want to be around.
You know, and so that was something I'd always thought about getting into was conservation. You know,
Yeah.
When I first started thinking about career, you know, a long time ago, I thought, nah, conservation officer would be the way to go.
Yeah.
And it took one conversation with one conservation officer. He said, "You like to hunt?" I said, "Well, yeah, of course." He goes, "Well, that'll go one or two ways."
Ooh.
He said, "You'll either start to not like hunting because you're working all the time, or you're not going to like your job because you can't go hunting." He's like, "So think about it." And
See,
like,
I was
"Oh,
taking law enforcement classes in high school with thoughts of doing something with law enforcement and to be a conservation officer. And I had a similar conversation with someone like, if you like to hunt, don't be a
right."
CPO. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. No, I'm out.
Yep, that's pretty much what I was told, and that's exactly what I said too. And I still think it would be cool.
Yeah.
but
All right, let me ask you this. Maybe you can't answer. You can just say no comment. I don't want to get you in trouble. Being a police officer, do you feel like nowadays you can't like do your job with like the politics and stuff? Do you feel like you're just kind of like, I can't do shit about anything anymore?
I feel like things are getting harder, you know, for,
Yeah.
for law enforcement with everything that's gone on in the country in the past, you know, decade, we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of issues, and it's just like your family tree. You know, you got one bad apple in there, and then you get a bad name for your whole family.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes.
Well, so my law enforcement officer in high school, he quit to teach. And he said he got out of it because of basically what I just brought up. Like,
Sure.
you couldn't really do your job the way it needed to be done without being scrutinized for everything.
Right.
So he's like, I just got out of it. I can see where it's going. I don't want any part of it. And he had worked for a long time, you know, so he retired. But he's like, I would have kept doing it, but I'm good.
Yeah. You know, and the attacks on law enforcement officers nowadays are so much higher than they have been, and they're only getting worse.
Yeah.
So
Hats off to you,
dangerous,
man. It's not a job I'd want to do, but hats off to you guys because there's just so much crazy stuff going on. Like, and I don't know if you ever talked to your parents about this. Like, I remember asking my parents, like, when we were little, was stuff always this crazy? Or is it just now that I'm an adult and see all the crazy stuff where I'm like, whoa, the world's insane? Or is it just crazier now than it used to be?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Because, you know, when you're younger, you're more innocent.
You don't hear about that
You
stuff.
don't
You don't
pick
need to
up on
know
that.
about it. Yeah.
Right. That's a pretty good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like you being in law enforcement, if you feel like, if you ever talk to anybody that's been in like law enforcement for, you know, that was still in, you know, in service 30 years ago, that might be still around, that would really know a scale of it.
I know a couple people, and I'll have to ask them. See
I'd just
their
be curious,
thoughts
you
are.
know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, you hear about Chicago. Like, how many murders go on every weekend in Chicago? Like, I'm sure, but Chicago's always been that way. That's a disaster.
Yeah, and that's so. Before I became a law enforcement officer, I spent a lot of time as an EMT, and I did about a year and a half where I worked in East St. Louis. And
Dude, that's gotta be. Oh, it's probably like Chicago, actually.
I don't have any comparison to Chicago. I've only ever visited there once. But, it was rough at times.
Wasn't it East St. Louis when the big shooting? What happened? I can't remember what happened in East St. Louis. They had all the riots there several years back. Was it East St. Louis?
There was a lot in St. Louis.
Oh, was it St. Louis?
That was around one of the multiple incidents.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore. I can't even remember anymore.
About 10 years ago. But most of that stayed on the Missouri side, around the bigger portion of the city, which we were surprised that we didn't have much carryover into.
Were you down in that area at the time?
Yeah, I was in East St. Louis when all them big riots were going on.
No kidding.
In, Ferguson, Missouri.
Ferguson.
When Ferguson was getting rioted real bad, I was working on the ambulance at that time in East St. Louis. So everybody was a little on edge, because we were afraid that it was going to carry our way.
And it didn't?
It didn't. We didn't have a lot of
what kept it from
stuff at all.
Just the river, huh?
I don't know. Maybe population. I'm not real sure, but.
Oh man, yeah. Screw that. Hats off to you, man. Because like you see that, like, oh, I mean, what just happened with Kyle Rittenhouse? Like, that was in Kenosha. That's not that far.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? Like, we're all around it. Oh, we're between Chicago and Milwaukee and Madison and St. Louis. I mean, yeah, so you're bound to be close. A couple hours from all that crap. Right. It's just crazy, man. I'm glad I live where I live in the country, and I'm glad my kids are away from the city stuff, because it's just gonna keep getting weirder, man.
For sure. And that's, I had somebody tell me once, they're like, I could probably get you hired on in one of these big cities like St. Louis. I said, no, thanks.
I'm good.
I said, my hat's off to those that do work there. I couldn't do it. It's just not for me.
I hope this burn land management stuff just really fires off for you. And I respect you for your service, man. I'm not wishing that, because I'm sure you love it, right?
I do, very much so.
But just the world's getting so wild that you'll have another
having
option.
something to fall back on would be good.
I don't know. Like, I'm not like wishing ill upon you, but I think you get what I'm saying. You know, it's like, it's just a weird time. And like, we're, I don't know. Public figure is the wrong term. We talk for a living in this outdoor space. It's like, how long before I start getting scrutinized for like one thing I say for being offensive? You know what I mean? It's probably not far away.
I was gonna say, it won't take long.
It won't take long. I say some wild stuff.
Or you'll get attacked by FEMA or something for posting a something video.
I'm waiting, like social media, everybody's on social media, but the jury series on DeerCast, thank God, is clean, and it keeps us in line a little bit.
Sure.
But on normal WCB, if we just feel like saying something wild, like for the laugh, we'll say it. But we don't like say, oh, I was just kidding every time. But like, we do it for the laugh. We might not mean what we say. But how far is that off from Kurt said this?
Right.
Like you took it out of context.
Everybody takes things differently,
I don't know, man. Just do what I do, I guess.
Right.
And that's all you can do, I guess, is do what you do.
Just brush it off when it happens. And
that's right. Well, dude, I appreciate everything. I will put all your information in the episode, so if somebody needs a prescribed fire, they can call you up. But, dude, it was awesome getting to learn this whole process from you today. And our crew that we had was awesome that helped out. And we were pretty efficient with it. So
yeah, again, thanks for having the help here and having the crew here. That was fantastic. Everybody worked well together, and we all did very good. Thanks to them guys for
it was fun, actually,
for helping. Thanks for having me up, and I'm glad. Hopefully now you feel a little more at ease.
Oh
with the
yeah,
process,
oh yeah, man, for sure. Well, too, is like I knew, because it shout out to Perry. If Perry's gonna introduce me to somebody, I already automatically know you're gonna be a kick-ass guy. So.
Right.
But hope you enjoyed the hotel stay at the studio.
It's been fantastic.
And I'm hoping, I don't know, you didn't really know what to expect, did you, when you came to the studio?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I love that. That's my favorite part about like showing people this place, So, but you're welcome back anytime, man. Come back, stay here, drink a beer. We'll have to get Perry out. You come up and we'll hang out with Perry and the boys here and just have a good old time and
be a good time.
Have a dude's night out basically here at the studio.
For sure.
So cool, man. You want to throw in anything, any shout outs or anything before we split?
No, man. Like I said, I just thanks to everybody today for helping out. That was great. And
worked out.
And, thanks to Perry, sure, for hooking us up, and it went very well.
It would have been way cooler if old Pear Bear would have made it out to help us.
I tried, but, he had prior commitments. So
Next time.
that's right.
Next time we'll hold them to it.
There we go.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in here on DeerCast. Please engage on DeerCast. Like, comment, let us know what you want to hear next, especially coming into summer and then into the fall. We have to engage on a deer hunter owned and operated platform, especially like what we talked about, what's going on now with socials and in the world today. The DeerCast is a place deer hunters can be where the world's not going to get stupid on us. So let's embrace what we have here with DeerCast and support it and make it one big community, one big positive community of hunters. So appreciate you guys tuning in. You know what to do. Go shoot a giant. We'll see you next week. Peace.